This is Dana Capobianco. I'm the One Small Step coordinator this year. I'm joined today by Susan Hedstrom, who's the Executive Director of FPWR, and Hannah, who is our Development Director. Hannah came on this year and last year, and she's been helping everyone maximize their fundraising efforts, us as an organization at FPWR, and each individual as well that's participating in a One Small Step event or planning their own type of gala or anything else. Hannah is at your disposal. And she's primarily going to be sharing today the secrets to fundraising success. So Hannah, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Throughout the webinar today, you'll be able to type in any questions that you may have on the little screen on the right hand of your computer screen. We would love to hear from you, so if you have absolutely anything to say, a question or a comment, go ahead and type it in. You can also raise your hand. Everyone is muted by default, but we'll unmute you if you have a question to ask. And if anything that is not addressed on the call that you want to touch base on afterward, you can feel free to email me at danacapobianco@gmail.com. So Hannah, you want to get us kicked off?
I'm going to go ahead and get started. So today we are discussing the secrets to fundraising success. And one of the key secrets is that successful fundraisers are knowledgeable. So they know why they're raising funds, and they know the organization that they're raising funds for. So we often ask at our conferences, what is our mission? What is the mission of FPWR? And I'm sure you all know this. Our mission is to eliminate the challenges of Prader-Willi syndrome through the advancement of research. So funds that come into the FPWR are only used to further this mission, to advance research. So all of our funds go into funding top-notch research programs. To that end, what did we achieve last year? When I'm going to donors, I feel it's incredibly important that I can tell them what did we do with their funds. I want a donor to feel comfortable that the donation that they gave was well used, so that they don't give again because I'm asking them to. They give again because they want to give. So what did we do in 2014? A brief overview, we supported 20 cutting-edge projects and initiatives. So these are grants that were given to FPWR. We reviewed them, and we selected 20 of them to provide funding to. This is in addition to our ongoing programs such as our conference, our community education, etc. And so towards those projects, we awarded more than $1.2 million. We are currently the leading research organization for Prader-Willi syndrome. We are providing more funding to support PWS research than any other organization in the world. And to that end, in 2014 alone, we saw 23 publications made in scientific journals. And when I was first new to this organization, I was like, what does that mean and why do I care? Well, when research is published in a journal, then it can be seen by the entire research community, and it can be further used. If you want to use this information, you could take it to a doctor, or you could take it to another researcher, and they can build upon this. Research that is not published is not known. So going along the theme that successful fundraisers are knowledgeable, these are some of the areas of funding that we provided last year alone. So, you know, a lot of our kids have autistic characteristics. We gave money for projects that study autism in PWS. Drug screening was one of our puzzle projects. So we actually looked at drugs that we wanted to see if they would have an effect on the Prader-Willi syndrome cells, et cetera, et cetera. I don't want to read each one of these, but what I'm really excited about, actually there's two things I'm really excited about. One is the resources that we're developing. So we're making new animal models that can be better used to find treatments for Prader-Willi syndrome, and we are developing the registry, which I will tell you more about towards the end of the call today. And really exciting news, we were able to fund 3 clinical studies, one of which you may have heard of. It's diazoxide for the treatment of hyperphagia. This is a clinical study that's currently ongoing and has had some great preliminary results. We're now waiting for the second half of the study to be completed so that we can get a better idea of how effective it is. But again, the preliminary reports have been they look really good. We've also been looking at transcranial DCS, that's STIM, it's electrical stim, to the hypothalamus, and a drug that may address hypotonia in infants. So if you look at our entire research profile, 45% of your dollars are going into clinical trials. So that would be a study that is actually working with people. 40% is going to, 45% is going to basic research. So we're trying to find the basic reasons for why Prader-Willi syndrome exists. And then finally, we're putting some funds into developing these resources that can further PWS research. I'm happy to go into more detail on any of those, but to keep things moving forward, I will just keep going here. All right, finally, our organization is incredibly efficient. As many of you know, we have a virtual organization, which means that we do not put any funds into office space. All of our staff members work from their home or the public library, as we often meet there. So that allows us to put more money into actual research programs. So 87% of donations were actually spent on research programs, going straight to funding grants and funding research. Only 9% is going to administration, and 4% is going to fundraising. So the donations that are given to us are really being effective. Finally, here is the impact that we had. Out of the 20 or more projects that we have completed in last year, I pulled out 5 items that I thought were really important that happened in 2014. So again, we funded 3 clinical trials. We funded these 2 doctors, Dr. Boré and Stuber, who have actually, in the regular, typical population, we don't know what's going on in the brain that indicates hunger and satiety. If we don't know that in the typical population, how are we ever going to figure out what's not working in Prader-Willi syndrome? So these 2 researchers that we funded, they have actually advanced that understanding in the typical population so that we can now start applying that to Prader-Willi syndrome. Additionally, we created new, we have created new models as well as some of our current models, and they're beginning to be adopted throughout the entire scientific community. So we're providing researchers with materials that they need to study our specific disease. Many of you may have seen the recent publication from Dr. Rudy Leibel. He is located in Connecticut, and this is a pretty big feat. He created the world's first human hypothalamic neurons in a dish. This was never made before. So we can now take these cells and we can study specifically the hypothalamus in a dish and see if there's any drugs that we could throw at it that works. The next step, of course, would also be to be able to make other differentiated neurons. So I know a lot of us have issues with our kids' guts. We can make gut neurons and start focusing on certain areas of the body or systems of the body. And finally, a lot of work has been done in the background that I don't think a lot of people recognize, and that is these collaborative relationships that we have with the pharmaceutical companies, advocacy groups, academic institutions, the FDA, etc. Teresa Strong, our director of research, has regular meetings with the FDA to discuss our community's unmet needs and to help advocate for treatments for our community. Without some of the relationships that she has been building, we would not see many of these clinical studies coming to fruition. The Belornev study is one fantastic example. She met with Zafgen and told them about our community, and that relationship is what built into this clinical trial that is ongoing right now. So These relationships are incredibly important and perhaps even above any other impact that has been incredibly impactful within our community. So with that said, I hope that you're all incredibly now knowledgeable about our organization, and we're going to move on to Hannah, who will tell you about your next key to success.
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here with all of you today. Thank you for joining us. As Dana said, I am at your disposal. So if you have any questions, please feel free to jot them down now. We'll do some Q&A today, but you can always contact me later, and I'll make sure everyone gets my contact information after the webinar if you don't have it already. So I want to talk a little bit about how successful fundraisers are great storytellers. And what this means is that you need to know your why. Why are you passionate about fundraising for FPWR and PWS research? Most likely, your why is your child or another relative that is living with Prader-Willi syndrome. In order to inspire people to give to our cause and our mission, you need to be willing to share your story. There's nothing more powerful than telling somebody about your family story, the challenges you faced, the challenges that may be on the horizon, and the incredible amount of hope that you have for a brighter future through research. You also should know your audience. So what this means is sharing your story and your efforts face-to-face can feel very vulnerable, but it's an incredibly effective way to communicate why it's important for people to contribute to FPWR through your event or your campaign with people close to you. For people that you don't know that well, it might be really effective to also introduce yourself in writing first, whether it's through an email that you send personally or writing a really beautiful letter about your story and having a friend deliver it to a local business. There are a variety of ways that you can reach out, and it's important to keep who your audience is in mind. Practice makes perfect. So what we mean by this is obviously know what you'd like to say. We all get nervous. Maybe we're not great right off the cuff. It never hurts to write things down. Make notes for yourself. Do a little role playing with a friend or a spouse, and make sure you feel comfortable about what it is you want to share before you walk into a meeting or make a phone call or even send out an email to somebody that you think might be willing to support you. If you are going to put things in writing, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So if you're willing, absolutely share pictures of your child, your family member that has PWS, your entire family. People need to feel connected, and visual representation of the person that you want to support, or even pictures of our greater community, are a great way to convey, that connection that they can make through their support. There's incredible mentors within our community already. So if you need some help to get started, if you're someone who's already hosted events successfully and you're looking for ways to really ramp up your fundraising this year, there's a number of people who are easily accessible. Dana can help connect you with folks in your region, in your state, or maybe even in your neighborhood. And then, of course, we have our One Small Step host group on Facebook, which if you're not a part of, we should absolutely get you signed up if you're planning to host an event or you've already registered to do so. The picture on the right here I wanted to share because it is of Sergio and Alice Berislav and their daughter Olivia. And if it weren't for their willingness to become great storytellers, our organization really wouldn't exist. Olivia is 18 this year, and Alice is one of our founding board members. And if Sergio and Alice hadn't been willing to open up and talk about their PWS diagnosis 18 years ago, we never would have started fundraising, we never would have started investing in research, and we wouldn't be here today. So if you need a little inspiration, we also put a link here to Kelly Garner. She's a new One Small Step host this year, and she's in Northern California, and she created a really, really beautiful video that has helped her raise more than $25,000 already. So we're not all tech savvy. We're definitely not all video producers by any means. But if you have Movie Maker on your computer, a little bit of patience, or maybe a teenage niece or nephew that might be willing to help you out, we strongly encourage you to use things like video, media, pictures, anything to help tell your story. Next slide.
I'd love to jump in and say that
yeah, absolutely.
I wanted to echo Hannah's sentiment about the impact that it makes when you share your personal story. Because all of our stories are so special, when you share them, people are truly moved and more often than not want to help you. And as Hannah said, pictures are worth 1,000 words. And before we had Ella, I was not even ever on Facebook before, and I was not tech savvy at all. But we created a video for our very first fundraising effort, and it was shared, by our friends and on other friends' pages, and somehow went through friends of friends of friends, and we wound up our second year actually with 2 anonymous $5,000 donations, just because our video came across the desk of someone that was moved and really wanted to help. And so that can happen to anyone. I have no idea who the people were, or the people that gave those donations didn't know us. They were just moved by our story. And in this day and age when videos can go viral that way, it can make a true impact if you put yourself out there.
Thanks, Dana. And that's a great segue to our next point, which is successful fundraisers expand their reach. So you might be planning an event in your neighborhood, but chances are in this highly connected day and age, you have friends all over the country, maybe all over the world. And you shouldn't be limiting yourself geographically by any means, because your friends and your network will want to support you. I always suggest to newer hosts to schedule a time for a brainstorming session. Sit down with family members or close friends that are going to help you plan your event, and just start running through a list of who you know. So this is another resource here if you want to click on and save this document. It's a worksheet that we give out to folks to help you identify, people who are in your community that might be able to support your event, either with cash or in-kind donations of services or products, and then also people who might have larger capacity to sponsor your event. So, connections with corporations, service providers you use regularly that you might be able to go back and say, thanks so much for doing great business with me. I'd like to give you an opportunity to support me now. Again, recruit people to help you, right? So if you have friends that are helping out with logistics day of for your event, that's fantastic. I never recommend going it alone. But you can also ask these friends to act as fundraisers. So we always preach that donors are great. We love our donors, but fundraisers are even better. So instead of asking your friends to contribute $50 or $100, ask them to set up a fundraising page on your One Small Step site and commit to raising twice that amount, 3 times that amount. Dana actually has a fantastic story about the difference between her first and second year. Dana, did you want to jump in and share that?
Sure. Our first year, I decided, quickly that we would do something for One Small Step, and so I fundraised on my own. I had a virtual event. We raised over $20,000, which was, to us, a huge success. We were so excited. It was a great year. The following year, when we hosted our first event, we encouraged our family and friends to set up their own pages. We wound up with 64 personal fundraising pages, and we raised $110,000. So just by having our friends and family reach out to their friends and family, we expanded our reach that much that we were able to raise 4 times as much money.
It's really phenomenal.
It's a very common ongoing scenario. I can say it's happened for me as well. I had a friend who donated $250 the first year. The second year, I asked her again if she would set up a fundraising page, and this time she agreed. And she raised over $2,000 that next year. Since then, she's become my top fundraiser every year, bringing in close to $4,000 or $5,000 a year. So, this is not just a one-off example. It really does work.
Right.
And it really makes, the people that support you feel like they're making a huge impact. So, we always encourage everyone to do that. Encourage fundraising. We wanted to share this example you see on the right here, and I think Gwen is on the line. Gwen is a veteran event host. She's in South Carolina. She's also an FPWR staff member, and she is a queen of using social media to spread her message and expand her network. not only through her fundraising efforts, but she also does a fantastic job of acknowledging those people that are supporting her events, as you see here. Next slide, please. So successful fundraisers also leverage their contacts. And this is an extension of what we were just talking about with, asking your friends for their support and letting people who want to help. A lot of your friends probably work for corporations that are doing really well and have what we call CSR, or corporate social responsibility programs. Those connections are the ones that typically return the larger donations, $500, $1,000, $5,000. I am here to personally support you in sort of navigating that space. So what that means is a lot of these programs will require you to submit a letter of explanation of your event and fundraising efforts and organization, or they want a full proposal. I'm here to support you in all of those efforts. So if you have a close personal friend, if you work for a corporation that has a program like this, feel free to reach out to me directly, and I will walk you through it A to Z. A lot of companies also have matching gift programs, and what that means is they encourage their employees to make personal philanthropic donations, and oftentimes they will match them dollar for dollar. So this is a fantastic way to really leverage your contacts. For instance, we have a host in Northern California who has a very good friend that works for Google. Google doesn't do a lot of grants or corporate donations. What they do is encourage their employees to give, and they match those gifts dollar for dollar without a cap. So what this friend has done for our One Small Step host is to set up a fundraising page, blast it out to all of her colleagues, ask them to make a donation, and then tell them to let the company know they've done so that their donations are doubled. It's an incredibly effective, fast way to garner corporate support and really increase your fundraising numbers. Another great way to leverage your contacts, especially locally, is to solicit in-kind donations from local businesses. So let's say there's a restaurant that your family frequents, or you hired a balloon artist for your child's last birthday party. This is a great time to go back to them and say, hey, I've loved supporting you all these years. How about you provide balloons or food or beverages for my upcoming event? They can receive tax benefits for this kind of donation, and as long as you provide me with the information of the value of their contribution, I turn around the appropriate documentation. You don't even have to worry about the logistics of it, but I'm here to support that as well. I know that, Dana, you've done this really successfully in the past for your walk. Is that right?
Yep. The first year that we hosted an event, I contacted the people that I've hired for my daughter's birthday parties for tents or face painting or a DJ, and we've been repeat customers for them, and so they were kind enough to donate their services to us, our family, the person that takes our family photographs, our family photographer, things like that. And the people that have supported our event have come back year after year. They really love to give. A lot of times companies like that have an amount of money or goods that they can donate. So all you have to do is ask, and if you're a supporter of the company, they're more than happy to participate in your event. And we've had great success, that they've come back year after year. So I highly recommend asking those businesses that you frequent.
Great. And the last point I'd like to make, and this is a tip I share with some event hosts who come to me and say, I have this friend who they're a member of a country club, or they're the CEO of a business, and they really want to help me, but they're not going to set up a fundraising page, and they're probably not going to come to my walk. Well, what I suggest doing in this sort of situation is asking them to host an event that works for them and their friends. So this can be anything from a dinner party in their home where you share your story and your why and ask them to make a contribution and support. A really creative one I heard of recently was leading up to a One Small Step event. a host has a relative who is in the wine industry, so they hosted a blind tasting party and asked everyone to make a minimum contribution of $50 to attend. So they got the wine for free, they opened their home for an evening, and they managed to raise, a few $1,000s. You're limited only by your creativity and your willingness to ask people to be a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Next slide, please. So this is a super, super important point. Successful fundraisers always acknowledge their donors' generosity. So to me, as a fundraising professional, the two most important words in the English language are thank you. Your donors will always receive tax receipts from the foundation directly, beautiful notes that come signed by Susan. We make sure they get acknowledged in a timely manner. But we also encourage all of our hosts and fundraisers to send personal letters or a note card, or even an email, as long as it's personalized and, the recipient is feeling your gratitude. Those sorts of follow-ups and acknowledgments should be done within the week the donation is received, ideally. But I also tell people it's never too late to say thank you. So we all know life gets away from us. When you think about it, and if 2 weeks, a month has passed, or you've gone way past your event and you still haven't managed to get all your thank yous out, still take time to do it. It will not only make people feel that you appreciate their contributions and that they're making an impact on your life, but it will also be encouraging for them to come back next year. Nothing beats a personal phone call. So if you can make time to do that, pick up the phone, even if it's a voicemail message, just to say thank you and let them hear your voice. We talked a lot about social media and the power that it has in fundraising efforts, and we actually pulled this offline just a couple days ago. The image on your right that you're seeing is the thank you note that this donor received from one of our One Small Step hosts. They were so moved by it, they took a picture of it, posted it on their Facebook, and then acknowledged the host for acknowledging them. We think it's really fantastic. You don't need to recreate the wheel. I would highly recommend you keep this in mind and maybe use the same exact method. They use images. It was just a really beautiful sort of way to acknowledge the support. One note I do want to make is that if you're going to use social media like this, always respect the privacy of your supporters. So if they made a contribution via your One Small Step site and listed themselves as anonymous, or if they wrote you a check and asked you not to, share their name, please make sure that policy, continues through social media and don't post it on Facebook. We also encourage all of our hosts to report back after your event. So, everyone that has rallied around you to support you, they want to hear how you did. Share your fundraising total. Talk about how many people showed up. Share the feedback that you get from the foundation. Talk about stories that happened at the event. One big wrap-up email, letter, communication to all of your supporters, which you can also do via your One Small Step site, really makes a big difference and encourages people to come back time and time and time. Dana or Susan, did you want to share any other helpful hints or tips from your experience around acknowledging your donors?
We send out handwritten thank yous after our event, and people are very grateful, very similar to what you see on the screen. We have a little photo of Ella, and we thank our donors for their donations, their participation in our event, and I think it makes a very significant impact. When people feel appreciated, they're more likely to return or to want to help again or donate again, and I just echo what Hannah said, that it's well worth reaching out after the event is over to thank, or after you've received your donation, to thank your donors and participants.
Perfect. And then that brings us to our final point. This is a big one. Successful fundraisers are not afraid to act. So I always share this. This is sort of across any organization or cause. The number one reason people do not give to a charity it's because they were never asked to. You'll hear this time and time again, and it's really a shame because there's a lot of people who have very philanthropic, warm spirits, and they want to support the people that are close to them. And we should give them the honor and the opportunity to do so. The number one reason why people do give to charity is because they were asked by someone that they personally cared about. So with that, I think, Susan, did you want to jump in here and talk a little bit about how you became such a great fundraiser?
Well, first of all, Hannah, I never consider myself a fundraiser because it's really not within my comfort zone. But when I was first given this this diagnosis with Jaden, I knew pretty quickly that if I didn't fundraise, nothing was going to change. So this was how I was able to take back perhaps a little bit of my life and really focus on making some changes for my son. So, you know, an ask can really come in many, many forms. The first, which is always the most effective, is in person. So you and the person that you want to ask. If that's a little uncomfortable for you, you could always do it in a group setting. So to have a group dinner or a group meeting, perhaps you and your significant other goes to dinner with a couple of other couples. You tell them about the organization, you tell them about your personal story, and then you ask them if they want to support you. A phone call is also very effective. Just as, you know, making a phone call to give those thank yous, you can make a phone call to make an ask. And I've learned a few things in phone calls, but the most important thing is after you have made the ask, pause and do not speak until the person you have asked talks. You have to give them that opportunity to absorb and to comment. Written letters have been incredibly effective. So, you know, we always think, or at least I always think, that everyone reads email, and they don't. You know, in today's society, it's very uncommon to receive a letter in the mail from someone. So this has actually become a very, very effective tool. Write a letter, include a photograph, and ask for support. And then, you know, our two most commonly used tools are email and Facebook. And what people really like about these is that the ask, it's a soft ask. If the person doesn't want to donate, they don't have to respond. They can just ignore the post. So you have lots of different options for how you can make an ask. And again, Hannah has been brought on board to help you with asks. So if you're considering asking for a substantial donation, Hannah can help you with that. We also have all sorts of pre-written letters and documents that you can use in host management. So you can access those documents by logging into your account. We have an entire folder of samples that you can reference. Hannah or Dana?
Yeah, Dana, did you want to share a little bit of your story of how, you know, you talked a little bit about the other day around your discomfort when you first got started and how it's evolved over the years, and now you're a fundraising pro?
Like Susan, fundraising is not in my comfort zone. I never sold a roll of wrapping paper or a box of Girl Scout cookies when I was growing up. I hated fundraising. But when Ella was born, it was a no-brainer that we would participate in One Small Step in FPWR because we needed to fund research for her to have the life that we wanted for her. So getting involved with One Small Step in the beginning, and almost every year, my first couple of asks feel a little bit uncomfortable, but by the third time you're asking, it becomes old hat. And really, I'm always greeted with such generosity and such compassion that it makes it much easier. I promise you that if you put yourself out there, you'll find that people really do want to help. And so working with One Small Step, we have so many tools at your disposal. Hannah is there for you, I'm there for you, Susan's there for you, but also like Susan said, there are tons and tons of documents that we've developed over the years, and you know, all of them are accessible to you to help you make, you know, fundraising so much easier. So I highly suggest you utilize the tools that we have made available. And like Hannah said, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask for our help.
This is a huge feat for Prader-Willi syndrome. This is actually a resolution that we were able to pass through the state, Senate, and House of Representatives. It is recognized by the U.S. government, and May is PWS Awareness Month. So this month, I'm incredibly excited. You have no idea how excited I am. We're actually going to be launching the Global Prader-Willi Syndrome Registry. So this is going to be available beginning tomorrow. We're actually making the final edits to it as we speak. Tomorrow morning when you all wake up, the registry is going to be available. This is the next step for us. This is actually where our community gets to take control. It's the most powerful tool that we, the parents of Prader-Willi's children, can use. The registry is made up of many, many surveys asking for information as far as your birth history, the supplements, your diet, your any drugs you give, like growth hormone. It's very encompassing. And we're going to be using this registry to help move treatments forward. Now, this is an interesting statistic. Even in the absence of new treatments, it has been proven that participating in a registry such as ours extends the patient's life by 5 years. So by my participating in the registry, I've just given Jaden 5 more years to his life. I think that that's a pretty powerful statistic. So I encourage everybody to enroll tomorrow when the registry launches, and we will be rolling out the registry challenge. So we're asking that all of our families first enroll in the registry. Then I want you to go to Facebook, and just like the ALS challenge, you can challenge 3 people to participate in the registry or make a small donation to the Foundation for Prader-Willi Research. You can make this challenge by tagging them. If you want to record a video, you can do so. And then we're asking that all of our enrollees change their Facebook profile picture to one of our customizable photos, which you can see here. There's actually 3 different versions, so you can choose the one that you like the best. You can stick your child's photo behind it and load it up to Facebook. The creator to do this, I've given you the URL. It's fpwr.org/pick-creator. You just pick a photo, pick your frame, and it combines the 2 together. So we're hoping that tomorrow we'll begin to see these profile pictures showing up throughout all of our community, showing the support for the registry and encouraging others to enroll as well. Everyone for joining us. We really appreciate having you on the call. I hope that you found this to be effective and will implement some of these strategies.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. Have a great